All right, let's go on to our next call. Our Wiz contact number, Judson 26405. This is Standard Our Contact. You're on the air.
Hello?
Yes.
Malcolm, I'd like to ask you whether you feel that the recent action of the Gaullist government in refusing you entry into France is in any way inconsistent with France's general policy towards the Afro-Asian community and Africa in particular.
Yes, I dispatched a wire to Dean Rusk, the Secretary of State here today, demanding an investigation into the reason why the French government could ban an American citizen and no reaction come from the American embassy whatsoever. But I might point out, I was in Paris last November and was successful in organizing a good organization, which another one that Dr. Hall over here can investigate in his capacity, in the American Negro community in Paris. And they have been working in conjunction with the African community, and it was the African community and the Afro-American community in Paris that invited me there to address a mass rally, and the French government permitted my entry into that country. And I might point out that it was the communist trade union workers in Paris that refused to let them have the hall initially, blocked their attempt to get the second hall, and eventually exercised influence in the French government to stop it. With the communist trade union workers, one of the largest unions in that country. And the reason I was in London, I had been invited there to attend the first Congress that had been given by the Council of African Organizations, who had a 4-day Congress, invited me to make the closing address because they were interested in the struggle of the black man in this country in his quest for human dignity and human rights.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next call. This is Contact. You're on the air.
Hello?
Yes.
May I speak to Malcolm X, please?
Yes, go right ahead.
I would like to, I don't have a question for Malcolm X. I would like to tell him that I am 100% with him for whatever he goes along with to helping the Negroes. And I think it's an awful shame that anyone should bomb or throw a bomb into a house where there's human beings, particularly children. And I don't go along at all with the Muslim, so-called Muslims at all, because to me they're only teaching hate.
Well, I confess that I was one of the leaders in projecting the Muslim movement and causing so many people to believe in the distorted version of Islam that is taught there. But at the same time, I have to point out that there are some progressive elements, right-meaning persons in the black Muslim movement. All of them are not wrong. There are many in there who mean well, but are just being misled by the hierarchy, many of which do not mean well. But there is a large progressive element within the movement, and usually they are the ones who come in, they stay a year, and they get disillusioned, and they go back out. But I was responsible for giving the people the impression that the black Muslim movement was more than what it is, and I take that responsibility. You can put the complete blame upon me, but at the same time that I take that responsibility, I want to point out that no white man or white group or agency can use me against Elijah Muhammad or against the black Muslim movement. When you hear me open up my mouth against another black man, no white man can put words in my mouth, nor no white man can sick me on another black group. When I have analyzed the man and the group with my own understanding and feel that it is detrimental to the interest of the black community, then I'm going to attack it with that same intensity.
Gordon, you were going to say something?
Well, again, as you know, it's more words, and he began by saying that he has to confess that he was responsible for misleading so many people on the Muslim count. There were never very many Muslims. Let's always come back to the fact that not very many people were ever misled. The white press was misled into believing there were a lot of Muslims.
Dr. Hall.
There were never more than 15,000 Muslims in America, and there are only now 6,000, and we have 22 million Negroes in the United States. Keep these facts uppermost in one's mind.
You admitted this at the very beginning, Malcolm. You said the 15,000 figure is correct.
Here's another fact.
These are facts, Malcolm.
Here's another fact you have to keep in mind. There never were many Mau Mau. There never were. There were always more Kikuyu, more Kenyans than Mau Mau.
What is this supposed to prove?
But it was the Mau Mau who brought independence to Kenya.
Yes, but
and the man who was regarded as an extremist and a monster just 5 years ago, Jomo Kenyatta, is the president of the Republic of Kenya today. And it is this same man who 5 years ago...
The situation in colonial Africa is not like it is in the United States.
Well, this is colonial. Anytime you have a system in 1965 that will take children and let them be marched down the road by not
Yeah, but
criminal element.
In numbers, you have to draw one big analogy. In the United States, the Negro is still a minority in the United States, and when you're talking about minorities, within minorities, you start boiling it all down. You can't really draw that analogy of a colony.
I say this, that the Mau Mau was also a minority, a microscopic minority, but it was the Mau Mau who not only brought independence to Kenya,
within a vast Negro majority.
But it but it's still that wick. The powder keg is always larger than the wick. The smallest thing in the powder keg is the wick. You can touch the powder all day long and nothing happens. It's the wick that you touch that sets the powder off.
I think it'll blow up.
It's the wick that you touch that sets the powder off. And if you go here in Harlem and you take all these moderate Negroes that Dr. Hall here puts the stamp of approval on and regards them as responsible, they don't explode. It's the wick. It's that small element that you refer to as nationalists and other...
You're doing all you can to encourage it, Malcolm.
Not encourage it.
With your inflammatory and demagogic language.
No, I don't encourage it, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it doesn't exist.
Don't you incite, Malcolm?
I don't think so. I don't. How are you going to incite people who are living in slums and ghetto? It's the city structure that incites. A city that continues to let people live in rat nest dens in Harlem and pay higher rent in Harlem than they pay downtown. This is what incites it. Who lets merchants outcharge or overcharge people for their groceries and their clothing and other commodities in Harlem while you pay lesser for it downtown. This is what incites it. A city that will not create some kind of employment for people who are barred from having jobs just because their skin is black. That's what incites it. Don't ever accuse a black man for voicing his resentment and dissatisfaction over the criminal condition of his people as being responsible for inciting a situation. You have to indict the society that allows these things to exist. And this is where I differ with Dr. Hall.
We differ in many places, Malcolm.
This is not one of the many places, Dr. Hall, where we differ.
Well, in a sense, didn't Hitler also talk about different points of view? Didn't he say that conditions existed, and didn't he also incite people?
Well, I don't know anything about Hitler. I wasn't in Germany. I'm in America.
Don't please.
I say I wasn't in. I say I don't know anything about Hitler. I wasn't in Germany, but I have.
You know about Hitler.
Well, you can't point to Hitler in Germany behind what's going on here in America. Turn on the television tonight and see what they're doing. No. Turn on the television tonight and see what they're doing with Dr. King. Mm-hmm. Turn on. Now, this is
Dr. King's methods are not your methods.
Dr. King goes along.
You couldn't do in Alabama what he is doing,
sir.
You could not do in Alabama.
You better pray that I don't go and try and do what he's doing. Anytime Dr. King... Anytime Dr. King goes along with people like you, you should put forth more effort to keep him out of jail. You should put forth more effort to protect him. And you should put forth more effort to protect the people who go along with him and display this love and this patience. If you would do more for those people and spend some of your time trying to help those people instead of trying to attack me, probably this country will be a much better place in which to live. You spend too much of your time, Doctor, trying to investigate.
I rarely ever mention you, Malcolm. You're hardly worth mentioning.
You spend too much of your time, Doctor, running around trying to keep track of dissatisfied black people whom you label as extremists.
Hardly.
Whereas if you would spend some of your time in these places where Dr. King is fighting, then you would make this country a better place to live in.
Malcolm, I lectured all over the state of Alabama when you had nothing to do with the Muslims.
Did you have on a white sheet? Did you have on a white sheet?
Gentlemen, time. Bell. Here we go. Bell. Okay, that's round 15. We just had it.
Dr. Hall, come up to the Audubon Sunday at 2 o'clock, and we'll continue it from there.
I have important things to do.
We have to move on. Time has run out. I'd like to thank all of you for showing up tonight. Thank you very much, Gordon, Malcolm, and, of course, Aubrey Barnett.